Hello, Facebook fans and YouTube fans of DX Engineering. It's Tuesday afternoon. It's time for Tuesdays with DX Engineering. And today we have sad news, and also we're very deepest sympathy to the family of Trip, our friend N4NTO, who unfortunately became a silent key on the 4th of July. As he was participating in Parks on the Air. He was an activator, and things went wrong. And we have today Michael, K3LR, and Troy AC8OW from the DX Engineering sales team. And we're going to talk about safety when you're doing activations of Parks on the Air. And both Michael and Troy are well experienced activators and also hunters, but also this is really focused on the activators and how we can go forward and try to eliminate these tragic moments that affect our hobby and affect those of us around us, families, etc. Michael, why don't you kick it off here? Michael, talk about some of the safety aspects when you get on site and you're doing an activation.
You know what I was thinking about this time when we were kind of just kicking this around earlier, just the whole thing, the one word or two words just kicked into my brain, was situational awareness, and just being aware of what's going on around you and what's around you. One of the things that I heard another ham talk about recently when he was doing a park was there are power lines going through the park that were kind of masked by trees. And, you know, this is a thing, and you've got to be really alert and aware of what's around you. Putting a wire up trying to put a wire up in a tree and getting it wrapped around a power line is a bad day.
It is, and boy, that is a great point, Michael, where trees can actually shield you or keep you from seeing the real danger that lurks there with the power line being so close. Troy, how about your experiences out in the field with power lines and your activations?
So one of the things that I do and that I encourage people that I talk to about parks on the air is when you arrive at the park, just do a drive around. You know, just like when we would arrive at a scene in a fire truck, you always try and view at least 3 sides of the structure before you park the fire truck. Drive that park and see where the people are congregating. Look at where those lines are, because like Michael just said, a lot of times in the parks, they try to hide the lines and that kind of thing and keep the activities out in the open areas. So just do a good survey of the entire park area before you pick your activation spot.
You know, I think we're all anxious when we want to do an activation. We get to the park and we want to go, get it up and get on the air. But I think that's sound advice, Troy, to just take a moment and back to what Michael said about situational awareness and take a look at the situation, because each one of these is different. Michael, let's talk about, I think some activators think that they're okay when they have a fiberglass mast and not a metal mast or even carbon fiber, and it's never okay, right?
No, it's never okay. It doesn't matter whether even if your rope is dry, it still can conduct electricity, and it cause a really bad day. So just being, again, aware of what's going on around you, that's key here.
And you just don't want to ever get involved with power lines and the 2 times distance, right, Troy? Stay twice as far away as you think you need to.
Correct. That's right. And not only just getting the antenna up and looking and seeing if you have a safe distance, but if that mast, due to Mother Nature or somebody bumping your mast or whatever, if it would tip over, You want to be at least twice as far away as you think you need to be to clear that mast. You may
Right.
be able to put it up and be safe, but if it falls over, you have to always have to prepare for the worst case scenario.
So, and Michael, it doesn't matter if you're using a vertical wire or an inverted V or an end fed. Michael, walk us through the various types of antennas that are used for parks on the air activations.
Well, and you're right, Tim. I mean, we have a lot of things like end feds. I've got this one here that I'm actually going to try and take out tonight and try for the first time. We have dipoles, verticals, again, all kinds of different things that you can put up. Loop antenna, and I've tried a number of those different antennas and for parks, and they all do very well. And my go-to is, and I've said it before here on your podcast, is that I use the Chelegans MC750 primarily because it's quick, it's easy, and I'll go back to something you said earlier. We want to get in because a lot of times you have a time constraint. You want to get your 10 contacts and maybe you want to get on to the next park. So, but again, slow down, take a minute, take a breath and look around you.
And so Troy, Michael walked us through the kind of these temporary antennas, but Troy, how about, some of these parks don't obey the same rules of how power lines are, the distance above ground. And when it comes to mobile antennas, Troy.
Right. And, mobile antennas can be even bigger factor than a portable antenna. A wire that's sort of in a tree or on a mast is one thing, but to have a hamstick stuck on top of your vehicle, you could be looking at, at that point being 14, 15 feet off the ground. And I was just recently at a park here next county over, and I actually saw a guy driving from one part of the park to the other, and he just wanted to not have to take his antenna down, put it in the car, move, and put his antenna back up. And so he was driving down the road with an 8-foot tall hamstick stuck on top of his vehicle. That created a huge issue. He was hitting, luckily, just trees, but had there been some power lines or other obstructions, he could have done a lot of damage just because he was trying to take a shortcut.
Right. And so, again, you have to think about the fact that some of these parks have drops into the shelters and so forth, and they're not going to be much more than 6, 7, 8 feet. And, you say, wow, geez, it'd be nice to sit in the shelter with the radio. Look, there's AC power. But the power can really get involved with your antenna. And, Michael, what sorts of, are there resources that we can point some of the activators to try and make sure that they stay up on the latest when it comes to avoiding, power lines?
Well, I think on the POTA website, the POTA.apps website, there are things in there about the different parks, and I don't know to what detail every park has. I think it's different for every one, but there may very well be things there for safety and things like that.
I want to make sure, and Troy, you being in the emergency services and first responders, the tragedy would be is if we don't take a stand on this and try to get the word out as well as we can, so this doesn't happen again, Troy.
Right. Education solves a lot of issues down the road. And yes, this was a horrible tragedy, but it would be even worse tragedy if we didn't just try and educate people to keep it from happening again. And so, a lot of the areas in the parks that I've been to, they have signage in the open areas that have pointed out some of the overhead lines. Look for those yellow signs that say overhead lines. Just again, like we said earlier, step back, take a look around, take a long, deep look around, and make sure you've got twice the distance you need.
And it's Michael. It's not just with masts and attaching end-fed wires or shooting stuff up in the trees, especially, let's say you have an arrow and you're going to put stuff up in the trees, and as you said, there could be power lines behind it, so you got to take a look at that. But geez, last week in Pittsburgh, an aluminum ladder. There were 4 guys working on a roof with an aluminum ladder, and they got into the power lines, and one of them died. And so, it can happen, if you're trying to put up an antenna even on your house, right, Michael?
Absolutely. My wife reminded me of something that years ago, she and I were up on a roof taking an antenna down for someone. And she reminded me that I yelled, "Stop, stop, stop," because that antenna was headed for a power line. And it only takes a second.
It does. And I want to recognize over in the chat room, while we have a minute here, Jose is on, X-Ray Echo 2 Zulu Zulu from Mexico, Alpha Echo 5 Tango X-Ray down in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. Our friend Jacob, Kilo Juliet 5 India Zulu Sierra is on, and our friend Paul, November 6 Papa Sierra Echo out in California. Rodney says 40 years in the field with oil and gas, semiconductor mining, safety, safety, safety. Situational awareness is the key. Jacob said, I was in the tree removal industry, and that is the first thing that we always do is become aware of our surroundings, because you never know where a power line could be. Donnie is on with us. That's Kilo Kilo 4 Echo Kilo Kilo down in Tennessee. And over in the UK, it's Germany 6 Juliet Mike X-Ray. So, Michael, I think there are the POTA resources that are on the internet. You've got your POTA.app is really good. Any other resources, Michael, that guys should be aware of?
That's the one that I probably use the most. I think there may be 1 or 2 others, but that's the one I use the most.
Yep, that's the driver here. And Troy, how about some emergency preparedness type, advice from you as a first responder?
So one of the things is the buddy system. It's always a good idea to have somebody else with you, because you never know what's going to happen. For me, 90% of the time, it's my wife. She also is a ham operator, but she just loves taking pictures in the parks. So somebody there, so that if something does happen, God forbid, there's somebody else there that can dial 911. If you're out there all alone, it could be a while before somebody finds you. And just stop and take a minute. When you get there, stop, take a breath. I always used to tell my guys, stop and count to 2 and take a deep breath before you step out of the fire truck. Go ahead.
Yeah, that is great advice. And certainly we want everybody to talk about this at your club meetings, on your internet reflectors. Let's make sure that we feel very sad for Tripp and his family and for NTO. But going forward, this is the best hobby in the world. And we want to make sure that everybody has fun and can enjoy it. But safety, safety, safety. Michael, Troy, thanks so much for coming on today. And if you need more information on Parks on the Air, go to the websites or call us here at DX Engineering. Until next time, 73.
7-3, everybody.